Hi, how's everyone doing out there? This is Amy Hamilton. Once again, 24 authors, 12 hours, marathon session of interviews. I am the author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project, and The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. I am so honored today to be here with Barry Overton. Barry, ignite your greatness. Such a powerful statement. Can you share with us what inspired this?
It started by a motivational speaker, Les Brown, that I've been following probably for the last 12 years, and hearing a term that he said just over and over and over, there's greatness in you. And it was probably 2 years in that I finally heard it and I started listening to it and really wanting to understand, okay, is there greatness in me? And what is that? And if there's greatness in me, then isn't there greatness in everyone? So it just started me down a path of building a theory behind greatness. My background, I spent 26 years in law enforcement. 17 of those years, I was a police detective. So
Thank you for your service, Barry.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your service as well. And so I was just used to building a case to prove in court. So that's really what I did with Ignite Your Greatness, is prove. I created a theory and I built a case around it to prove that we all have greatness inside of us.
So we all have greatness inside of us. And you mentioned something very powerful at the beginning. You said you heard this for 2 years before you resonated. And I mean, that's a long time to hear a message. So what clicked? What changed for you where you went, wait, this actually, I could be great?
And I think when you're getting these messages and you're reading or who you're listening to, you still have life happening at the same time. And I think it was just through the course of the particular things going on at that point of, while being in law enforcement and feeling like that's my purpose, this is where I'm supposed to be at. This is all that I'm supposed to work this job, retire, and just go on my way. But there was this burning desire that Napoleon Hill often talks about, and I felt this burning in my chest, and it wasn't heartburn. it was my greatness speaking to me, and it was telling me that I have so much more for you. There's so much more out here for you to accomplish. And it was through that time that I started having these passions and desires in entrepreneurship and taking on new endeavors.
So what sort of new endeavors have you taken on now that you have retired?
So when I retired, I was 45 years old. So I retired 10 years early. I still don't draw my retirement as of yet. I can't just yet. And so for me, it was a decision. And you think about it, I was making six figures as a police officer with the off-duty work and the base pay. And to walk away from a six-figure income to pursue my dreams was scary, but it was something. The moment that I did it, it was very fulfilling. And so I've been in real estate. I was actually a real estate agent while I was a police officer. So I have 19 years now in real estate. Had a couple of different other endeavors. I was in a coffee distribution business that was on a network marketing platform. And that was the one that really gave me the confidence to say, okay, you can do this. You can do something outside of law enforcement because of the success I had on the front end of that. But I've done concert promotions, and I've done a barbecue catering business with my nephew. So I've always had a passion and a desire to take on entrepreneurial endeavors. And since then, even then, my greatness wasn't business or being an entrepreneur. It was something that really came along to me at a later date through some tragedy, in my life. And I can expand on that. But in 2015, July 4th of July of 2015, I had my brother that passed away. I was the youngest of all my siblings, and he was the next closest to me, but he had some health issues, but it was still unexpected. And it was through his passing that I started to, number one, I reflected on his life and I thought about, man, he's gone too soon. And did he leave a legacy? Did he create something that the world will remember him by, or our family will remember him by? And then I started thinking about myself and realizing, okay, I'm still here. What am I doing to create my legacy? What am I, and what I've learned is that to build a legacy, you have to tap into your greatness while you're here. And through that, I realized, okay, so what is my call? This is when I really started to think, okay, the coffee business that I'm in is not necessarily my calling. That's a business that I do. Real estate is not necessarily my calling. Police officer, military, that's not my calling, but they all attach to my calling. And what I found my calling was these simple words, the service to others. Being able to serve other people is where I get my most fulfillment. Even in real estate, when I can help a first-time home buyer purchase a home, there's no better feeling than being able to pass them the keys. But, and you know, in the military, being able to serve your country is it's a patriotic feeling, but it's just such a strong feeling of fulfillment that we all have. Law enforcement was the same way. So that's where, and that's how I live my life now, is when opportunities are presented to me, I always have to ask myself, does this serve me, or does it serve me with the ability to be able to serve others? So, and that's how I make decisions on the things that I'm getting involved with now.
I think those are such important concepts. And you touch on so many things there. I'm like, I'm not even sure which thread to pull first, to be honest. But I really believe in this concept of serving others and reaching out to others. And it's so important for our audience right now, because right now it's, it's the pandemic. And the question is kind of like, what do we do? You know, how do we as authors then promote our books, get our books out, get our messaging out? And, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, you would be scheduling your different meetings and workshops and places where you do your public speaking. And you imagine you have this signing table, like, and people buy your book and call all your friends who own little indie coffee shops, and do some kind of reading. And all of that went away. And in the author forums, people are like, what do I do? What do I do? And that's kind of how 24 Authors in 12 Hours came about, was because people were like, we need a forum. And I said, I could do this. I could create a forum. And so this is really this wonderful virtual book festival feel. And Barry, there was somebody I had on last month's show. Do you want to mention that?
Yes, actually. So my wife had the privilege to be on the show last month. If I'm not mistaken, was that your very first month?
That was the first full one. I'd done a 4-hour test before that, but that was the first 24 Authors in 12 Hours.
Yeah. And again, she really loved being on the platform. And what I was impressed with was, when you hear 24 authors in 12 hours, it doesn't really click. But when you see back to back to back interviews, and I'm thinking of you as like, whoa, that is impressive, to be able to go all day and be able to present, and you give us as authors a platform. So that's, once again, thank you for your service with 24 Authors in 12 Hours.
It's really a privilege. And I put Amy's information up there for people who are interested. And Amy's in sales. And I was mentioning to Barry when we were prepping for this, I was like, I never thought sales applied to me. And then after Amy, I was like, oh my gosh, sales are like so important. How did I not know this? So I think even if you're not an entrepreneur, such an important thing to be aware of. What I want to do right now is kind of let everybody know that today, Veterans Day, such an important and special day. If you are interested in getting a copy of my book, The Project Manager, Life is a Project, or The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals, they are available for download free all day on Amazon. In addition, if you are interested in buying print copies of the book, 10% of all print copy proceeds today are going to be given to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. So if you are familiar with that organization, it is an organization that helps veterans. Just a really important thing to do today, to just remember that There's veterans who serve and who really need assistance. And so I want to make sure that we're honoring them on this day. I'm putting the link to the Wounded Warrior project in the chat in case anybody's interested. And Barry, what about you? What do people get when they go to your website, and what kind of specials do you have going on?
So the book is actually, we're just releasing it. This is actually the only copy that I have, which is
that's the cover I voted for, by the way, when you had it out there on Amy's site.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of votes for this particular cover, and it was probably number 2 for me at the time, but I saw the outpouring, and Amy, my wife, actually, that was the first one that jumped out at her. So she's like, see, I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so we do have a couple of things going on right now. You can go on to the website and purchase the book, but if you go to the reserve a copy button on the website, what we'll do is send out a 20% discount for the book. So anyone that goes on to the website, you can go on right now, igniteyourgreatness.com. Don't go to shop, just go to reserve a copy. And because you're listening to us here on 24 Authors in 12 Hours, you're getting a 20% discount.
So go underneath reserve your book, and you can go ahead and let me just put that link into the site for people. So please go ahead and reserve this book now, because who doesn't want to ignite their greatness? And I'm just going to ask you this, and I know that I didn't prep you, and I kind of warned you in advance. The way I do interviews is a little bit like, oh, be prepared, because you can be asked anything. Is Jim Collins wrote Good to Great, and he really talks about the difference between goodness and greatness. And so when you talk about igniting your greatness, how does that relate to just kind of being okay or mediocre to being great?
And I haven't read that book, but just the title itself, I want to read it. And because you hit on something that was always so very important to me in regards to those words, good and great. You know, you've probably had conversations with someone where they are, they say they're good. When I was in network marketing and I would tell people about a business opportunity, and people would, they're complaining about a job. They're not necessarily happy where they're currently at in life. And I show them an opportunity. And at the end of it, their response would be, I'm good. Basically meaning that I don't think this is for me. I'm good where I'm currently at. And my response was always, but why would you settle for good when you were intended for greatness? And that's really what it comes down to. I think, it's good. Good is better than bad. But when we have a destiny for greatness, each and every one of us, and like I said, in the book, I prove it to you. If I can prove that you have greatness, each and every one of us have greatness intended for us, why would we ever settle for good?
I think that's a really profound point is, greatness, good, bad. And the first, goal, when you're looking at life is Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. And we're very, very fortunate and blessed. All the authors today are based out of the United States. Last month, it was very much international focused. But, when you live in the United States, you have the foundation already. Most of your basic needs are met. So then you can move up and you can really focus on these other things. But I'm sure in law enforcement, you saw a lot of people who were not in the best of places. So how do you go from that to being great?
So just taking it from a law enforcement perspective, I can tell you that, I've always told people that people don't call the police when things are good in their life. They call when it's the worst moment going on, and we're coming in to save the day, so to speak. And a couple of things on both sides of that. I'm going to take it from the law enforcement perspective first, because this is what I experienced from it is after years of responding to really bad situations and negative situations, I realized that I had become jaded just in life in general. And then I realized the people around me, my fellow officers and friends, were pretty much the same way. And that's what led me down the path of personal development, because I was also a real estate agent. And so I had this different world that I would go into, and I would see that everyone is happy over here. You know, the water cooler conversation in a real estate office versus in a police station were totally different. So it gave me an understanding, okay, there's something better. And again, we are products of our environment. And if my environment was of, you know, doom and gloom and dealing with bad situations, that's what I became a product of. So I knew that I had to change that in my own thinking. And what it did for me is also realizing some of these situations that I go into, particularly with kids, is kids have a very soft spot in my heart for being able to recognize the opportunities that, you know, a young child may have if presented, and being able to put them in different programs or offer different programs to them. Right now, I still work in the schools. I do a entrepreneurial class. I haven't didn't do it this year, but in past years, I used to take the Monopoly board into an elementary class, and I would teach kids how real estate worked, because real estate for an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid is pretty boring. But when you have a Monopoly board, that got their attention. So, and to get them to, again, dream and think bigger than their current environment.
No, you bring up a really great point. You were talking a lot earlier about the need to serve. And that kind of service that we can do by volunteer work is so important right now. Is, you know, so many different opportunities. And I know that with COVID, people who used to volunteer in physical space, that might not always be an option, but there's so many other ways that we can donate our time right now and volunteer and give that service.
Yeah, I agree. And we're definitely in a time. I think now I'm reaching out to adults, because I don't think I've ever seen a time in my lifetime where there has been so much despair and doubt of what our future looks like. Because you have people that have been secure in their positions, in their jobs, and all of a sudden they're laid off just because of the circumstances and COVID and how it's changed the landscaping of different professions. So there are a lot of people that are, have reached out, or that I'm reaching out to. The beautiful thing about Facebook is, I have 4,700 friends there. And a lot of times you can see people post something and realize, okay, they need a phone call. We need to have a conversation and see what's going on with where they're currently at right now.
That's such a great point about, like, how do you reach out to people? How do you just kind of know when you see them out there, they're suffering, they're having issues? I just want to comment and ask a question too. Looking at the sign behind you, you have so many amazing words in this kind of word cloud comment. And the one that is just kind of along the side of you that I've just been looking at the whole time is fearless. And we as authors, you're putting yourself out there. And it can be hard when people give you bad reviews. It can be hard when people, kind of tell you, oh, I really don't like what you did, or they don't like your speech. How do you live fearless, and how do you overcome that kind of rejection?
That word for me is on the board, number one, because it is a way that I lived life. When I was in the Army, I got out in 1990, June of 1990. Desert Storm, or Desert Shield at the time, started about October or so. I was in a National Guard unit. I was turned 22 in November, and I was reactivated. And everything that I was hearing on the media was how this was going to be the next Vietnam, and we were going to lose so many soldiers. And I was afraid. I was, beyond afraid in that moment. And once I got in country over into Saudi Arabia, and we spent time in Iraq and Kuwait, I can tell you that fear, because it was the fear of dying that I had at that time. And that fear just went away. And again, as soldiers, we soldier, and I just got into the mode of doing my job that I'm there for, and not worrying about death, and knowing that if, I'm trained by one of the best armies in the world. And if I do my job as I've been trained, that I'll be fine. And that's the mentality that I took. And when I came back in law enforcement, I took that same type of mentality. So I never, after Desert Storm, I never had this moment of fear in regards to doing my job. So fearless really comes from this, because I did experience, again, going back to my brother's death, this was a moment for me where fear came back, but it came back in a positive way. It came back from a perspective of, okay, I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of dying without tapping into my greatness and building this legacy that I was preordained for, that my purpose in life, and to be able to serve others. So I just realized that every day that I wake up, my only fear is not, being able to go out. I can't take a day off. And my wife and I have had conversations the last few days about, you need to take some time off somewhere, because you can't keep going the way that you do. But I'm driven by, again, I have to serve others. And we're getting to the holiday season. I've actually had people that know some of the things that I do in the community that, I don't broadcast or anything, but they're reaching out to me in regards to Christmas is coming up, and there's some families in need, and they're reaching out to me to be able to help those families. And that's, again, that's part of that service to others. So as long as I'm doing that, I'm still living, from a fearless standpoint, but using fear as a driving force to keep me going, and just spreading a message of positivity in regards to the greatness, but also just being able to tap into people and touch them, and have an impact on their life.
Such great points there. And one of the ones I kind of want to pull the thread on a little bit is that we are going into the holiday season. And so often that is a time when people who are alone, are maybe not in the best of circumstances, they feel down. And during COVID, when people are isolated, it might be an even bigger impact. What is your advice for them? How do they tap into their greatness and overcome the kind of seasonal depression that comes when it's dark and they're lonely?
Yeah, and I think it's good for us to be alone if we're in the right mindset. If you're not, if you are having struggles and challenges just getting through the day, one of the biggest things for me, I think, has been personal development. I listen to, when I'm running, when I'm working out, I'm listening to motivational speakers, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, or some of the obvious. But one of my spiritual mentors is a gentleman named Billy Alsbrooks, and his story is so impactful. He talks about going through almost 8 years of panic attacks and anxiety over what we were just talking about, fear of death, because he was there in the hospital when his father had a stroke, and he had survived the stroke, but he ended up, because of laying in the bed too long, got a blood clot that went straight into his lungs and had a pulmonary embolism, and passed away right in front of Billy. And from that moment, it created these panic attacks that he went into for almost 8 years. And to see him and hear him now, and how much he has grown and experienced, and how many people he's touched, over 32 million views on YouTube. Just such an inspirational person. And to realize that when he tells his story, he's very vivid in regards to what it looked like. And it's not anywhere that anyone would want to be. But the fact of the matter is, like he said, right now through COVID, there's a lot of people that are in that place. So, I would refer to, Dr. Billy Alsbrooks, or some other speakers that you can reach out to, or authors, as far as their YouTubes or things of that nature, to be able to help you get through those areas, and just realize that you have friends and family that love you and want to see you be successful in life. And not, I think that's one of our biggest challenges, is sharing what we're going through with others. A lot of times, I had the misfortune of literally having in about 2.5 years, 4 Denver police officers have committed suicide. And I knew 3 of them very well, and they were all pretty much shocks that this was going on. Because again, as a police officer, you help other people with their problems. You don't express your problems to other people, to people to help you. So the biggest thing I would say is reaching out, sharing with others what you're going through, because there's people that want right there in your network that want to be able to help you through whatever it is you're experiencing.
I just shared the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's one of the many organizations out there to help people, and such a profound thing. And unfortunately, we talked about that in my last segment as well. So I think on the opposite side of inspiration is sort of desperation. And it's crucial that people realize there is help, you can overcome it. And then sharing these kind of stories can help other people to get better. A lot of times, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning, is 24 authors in 12 hours is a little crazy. I end with a minute or two to like go run, refill my coffee, and have some breaks. And in the end, though, I'm inspired. I laughed the last time, 12 hours later, and I was just like, I have spoken to 24 amazing people. These authors are tremendous. And I'll tell you, when people write books, what you realize is just the depth and the breadth of the human spirit. And like you said, there's greatness in all of us. There's a book in all of us. Barry, I really want to thank you. We're kind of wrapping up our time now. Is there anything that you wanted to add that I did not give you a chance to talk about?
I would just like to say to your audience, again, there is greatness in you. Pick up, ignite your greatness. On the first part of the book, I will prove to you that you have greatness in you. And then once it's proven, I'm going to take you through the steps and actually give you action steps and thought-provoking questions at the end of each chapter that will help you to find and tap into your greatness and set it on fire. So I look forward to speaking with any of you. Feel free to reach out to me. My information is on the website. I'm sure it's in the chat as well. Love having conversations about greatness. And thank you again so much, Amy, for this opportunity to be on this platform.
Great, Barry. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful.
All right.
And tell Amy hi for me.
I will.